My wife went on a trip with her ex. She sent me a message. Relax, I'll be back in a week. I sent her a selfie hugging her single sister. Relax, nobody's waiting for you. You've already been replaced. My wife said she needed space, so I gave her total freedom, financial too. She wasn't home. Lights off, clean kitchen, shoes off the carpet. I rested my phone on the counter, took a deep breath, and sent a message. Are you with the girls again? Nothing. I ate a reheated chicken breast, standing at the sink like a bachelor who forgot he wasn't one. 30 minutes later, when I'd already turned off the lights and stretched out alone in bed, the phone lit up the nightstand. Yes, sorry, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. It had become a running joke that I no longer laughed at. I stared at the ceiling. If I'd known where this was going, I would have slept soundly and saved the wine. The next morning, I tried to pretend it was just a stumble. She arrived at dawn, showered without a word, left a trail of perfume in the hallway, and went straight to the laptop. I made coffee. She took hers on the trip and said she was swamped with work. Then she left again, a shadow and designer boots that I never saw long enough to risk a guess. I still believed that effort could fix things. My fault. So I got practical. I bought a good cut of ribeye, set the table for two, lit a candle I hadn't touched since Christmas, and was checking the time like a rookie waiting to be called up. At 6, I messaged dinner. At 7, no response. At 7, the steak rested. At 8, the candle burned out, and my patience too. At 8:30, the phone vibrated. I'm with the girls. I'm sleeping out. Don't wait for me. I put out the candle with a teaspoon, ran the smoke under the sink's faucet, and let out a short, dry, humorless laugh. If she wasn't waiting for home, I wasn't going to wait for gratitude. The doorbell rang. It was Lily, her sister, standing on the porch, jean jacket, hair up in a messy bun, holding a bag and a bottle of sparkling water. Lily lived 5 minutes from there, taught art classes at the community center, and had that air of someone who's always between places, never with enough time, not even to create dust. Is Erin home? She asked. She's with the girls, I said, opening the door wider. But dinner's ready, and it's a crime to let a steak die alone. Lily smiled with that dry, amused smile she used when students handed in last-minute work. I can't say no to a crime. We ate at the table. I pretended I hadn't set for a presentation. Lily cut the steak, as if it were a test she intended to pass. She noticed the 2 glasses, the nicer plates, the drowned wick of the candle. You made an effort, she said. It wasn't a question. Apparently not enough. She tilted her head. Do you want to talk about this, or just chew in solidarity? Solidarity seems easier, but you've walked into the wrong kitchen. If you wanted a silent night. I took a deep breath and gave the facts, not the sad story. She's barely home, cold when she is. Everything's a shrug or a scheduling conflict. I plan. She cancels, I ask, she smiles past me. Last week, she told me, word for word, it's not personal, I just need space. Lily tapped her fork once on the plate. Space is a room. A week is already another territory. Good line, I said. Can you send me the bill? It's none of my business, she added, lowering her voice as if someone might be recording. But if I were married to a man who cooks, works, and actually shows up, I'd hold on with both hands. I wouldn't treat him like a background app. I understand, I replied, pushing the salt shaker away. And thanks. We talked too long for a disciplined weeknight. She told me about a boy who painted trees like blue forks and called the piece winter. And I talked about a project at the factory that finally got the green light after 6 months of being kicked down the road. The clock passed 11. When she got up, I grabbed my jacket. I'll walk you, I offered. It's dark. Dark doesn't scare me, she said. But thanks. We walked 2 blocks. Her street was silent, just a stray cat passing under a porch. On her doorstep, she hesitated, took a step forward and hugged me. It wasn't a quick pat. It was a human, attentive hug that said more than it should. She pulled away. I'm sorry you're going through this. It is what it is, I answered. And I'm not looking for anything else. She shook her head. I know. Good night, Jack. Good night, Lily. On the way back, my phone vibrated again. Don't wait for me, Erin said. I put the phone in my pocket and didn't answer. I had already waited. When Erin came in around 7, I was awake, sitting at the table with the empty candlestick as a witness. Good morning, I said. She poured herself coffee. Good morning. We need to talk. She didn't look up. About what? About why my wife spends more nights with friends than with me. That's none of your business, she replied, still stirring her cup. I need what I need. I'm not going to change my social life because you feel clingy. Clingy, I repeated, savoring the word like cheap root beer. Sure, so here's my limit. I'm not going to carry this house alone while you treat it like a hotel lobby. She finally looked at me. What does that mean in the end? It means I'm tired of doing all the heavy lifting while you just show up to enjoy the comforts. As of today, our accounts are separate. I'm blocking the shared card. Rent and bills, all split in half starting on the 2nd. If you're not home, I'm not going to plan anything around you. No more standing reservations. No more calendars full of hope. We're going to live like roommates until I see respect again. Her mouth twisted into something between a mocking smile and a challenge. You can't control me. I'm not trying, I said, grabbing the keys. I'm just not going to keep funding or organizing whatever this is. I'll see you when this deserves it. You're being dramatic. I'm being specific. I said that and left for work. Before lunch, I had already changed my salary deposit, changed the passwords for everything in my name, and created a rule on my phone. No initiating messages after 6 p.m. Two adults living in the same house shouldn't need reminders. But I was tired of auditioning that night. She arrived late again. I was in the garage, putting the toolbox in the trunk, when my neighbor Mark came over from his own garage, wiping his hands on a rag. Are you two okay? He asked, glancing at our house. I haven't seen her Subaru since Tuesday. We're adjusting, I answered. Erin got out of the car, as light as if she weighed nothing. She saw us, greeted Mark, and gave me that polite greeting you give a coworker you don't hate. Hi, Mark, she said cheerfully. Jack's just mad because I have friends. I wasn't buying that in particular, and I wasn't going to buy in my own garage. I'm not mad, I answered. I'm busy. Erin and I are splitting expenses and time until we're a team again. Mark, if I don't show up for poker, don't wait for me. Erin blinked. Now you're going to announce our finances to the whole neighborhood. I'm announcing my schedule. I said you can announce yours to whoever is accepting applications. She laughed quietly and went inside. Mark pretended he really needed the rag and backed away. I drove to the hardware store and bought a new lock for the office, which had quietly become my spare room. I put the gun safe, the documents, and a laptop in there. Not because I thought she was going to set the house on fire, but because clarity lives behind closed doors. The next morning, there was a plate on the counter, pancakes, and a taped note. Sorry about last night, dinner today. I'll be home at 7 p.m. I promise. There it was. The first soft landing. I could almost hear the gears turning. He's pulling away. She makes just enough of a gesture to hold on. It wasn't paranoia. It was a pattern. I replied with 7 words. At 6:45, I already had a salad ready and a tray with chicken ready for the oven. At 7:10, she sent a message saying she was going to be late. Don't be mad. At 8, another one came. I promised Jenna I'd stop by quickly. We'll reschedule. I took the tray out of the oven, took a picture of the golden chicken thighs, and sent it to myself as proof. Then I put half of the food in a glass container with a label. Lily, I took it to her house. She opened the door wearing a baggy sweater with an ink stain on her wrist. You're saving me again, she joked. I'm saving the chicken from the trash, I replied. You're the closest shelter. We ate on the couch with the TV muted, playing a cooking show that made our dinner look too simple. I told her about the pancake note and the message canceling everything. She watched me as I talked, not like a sister looking for ammunition, but like someone who hates waste. Jack, she said at the end, I know it's none of my business, but you're not crazy. There's something wrong there. Do you want my straight answer? Always. Either you draw a real line, or you're going to bleed out slowly from small cuts. If it were me, I'd look for clarity. If that means hiring someone who knows how to find it, that's fine. Are you saying hire a private detective? I'm saying stop guessing. If it's all clean, you sleep better. If not, you act. I nodded. Do you know anyone? She opened her hands. The teacher's network is surprisingly useless for that, but Google knows everyone. I didn't sleep much. At 8 the next morning, during my first coffee, I called a licensed firm 2 towns over. I gave them a week and a down payment I could afford without asking anyone for permission. I didn't tell Erin anything. I didn't give any clues. I went to the gym, to work, to my life. During that week, Lily and I became a constant presence in the normal. We'd have tacos from a food truck. We'd walk along the river and, in the night, at the community center's open studio. She showed me a wall full of student work, each canvas bold and irregular. She talked about children finding their own voice with a paintbrush. I listened and realized that inside my own house, I had been speaking almost in whispers. On Thursday, I found a brown envelope in my office, slipped under the door where I'd asked them to leave it. Inside was a typed report, time-stamped photos, a name I recognized from an old story, and an address on the other side of town. The images weren't obscene. They didn't need to be. People don't hold each other that way by chance. No one enters a building at midnight and leaves at 8 a.m. for board games. No one hugs on a sidewalk with the kind of relief you save for airports, unless you're arriving somewhere. The investigator's summary was clear. Repeated encounters, late nights, sleepovers, a man Aaron had been in a relationship with before me. Those weren't scattered dots, it was a straight line. I stood there with it until the anger cooled and turned into something sharper. Then I called a financial lawyer I knew through a contractor on one of our projects. We talked about structure, protection, clean exits. He gave me a checklist. I followed it item by item, like a construction checklist. Separate accounts, adjusted automatic debits, updated beneficiary forms, limited access. I wasn't threatening, I was planning. Then I called Lily. You were right, now I have clarity. She was silent for a moment. I'm sorry, she said, and you could tell she really meant it. Do you need a couch? I need a plan, I answered. And I already have one, but thanks. I'm not going to create a story that someone else can twist. Understood, she said. Still, if you need to get out of the house to clear your head, the guest room's free. Not today, I said. I'm going to wait at home. I want to see if she walks through the door as if nothing's wrong. She didn't walk through the door. Midnight passed. At 7 in the morning, I sent a message. Where are you? 10 minutes later, the reply came. Relax. I'm in Paris with the girls. I'll be back next week. Paris. That wasn't a girls' night nearby. It was a continent and a tone. I took a screenshot and sent it to Lily. She called instantly. Come over for coffee, she said. I'm on my way. We're going to take a picture, and you're going to send her your own line. I half laughed. That's petty. It's not petty to tell the truth, she answered. She's not your wife this week, and you're not her concierge. When Lily arrived, she hugged me at the door and held out her phone with the camera facing us. We took a quick selfie, nothing intimate. Just two people who trusted each other, side by side in my kitchen. I wrote, relax, nobody's waiting for you now, except the papers. I hit send. Then I turned to Lily. Do you remember when you said you'd hold on with both hands if you had what I was offering? I asked. I remember, she said, looking straight at me. I still think that for someone like you, I said. I'd hold on even tighter. We didn't rush anything. We just went on as if life was waiting for permission. We went to the movies and actually watched the movie. We walked the path near the reservoir and talked about family and silly childhood stories I hadn't told in years. I slept in my own house every night and let all the calls from Paris go to voicemail. After letting it ring twice, she left messages that were now soft, honeyed, where before there had been coldness. Hi, love. Call me when you can. We'll start over when I get back. I miss you so much. Then came a video call that I rejected and a message right after. We should try a weekend away, just the two of us. Therapy, maybe. I'll agree if you agree. There was the second soft landing, wrapped in care, padded with promises of a future. I always replied with the same short sentence. We can talk when you get back. In the meantime, I got things in order. I separated her closet into organized piles. I folded what I had bought and what she had brought and put it all in 2 suitcases. I left the brown envelope on the dining room table. I put a pen with the papers on the counter. I stored our wedding photos in a plastic box and put in the garage. I scheduled a cleaning service for Monday. Clarity is also a form of order. On the 7th day, shortly before lunch, the front door opened with enough force to make the frame shake. Aaron stormed in, sunglasses up, perfect hair, loud voice, as if the volume could reset time. What's this? She demanded, her eyes on the suitcases. What are you doing? Tidying the house. I answered, you have everything you need in those suitcases. She threw her hands toward the counter. And this here, seriously, she shot. You sent me a selfie with my sister. Are you trying to make me look like an idiot? I took the envelope and slid the first photo across the table. She didn't look down. Answer me, she insisted. Were you with her? Be honest for once. I put another photo next to the first one. Then another, like cards in slow motion in a silent game. Her eyes went down. Her face didn't crumble dramatically. It sharpened like someone who realizes the test has started and they studied the wrong chapter. What's this? Her voice grew sharp. These are dates and times. I said, that's a lobby I can name. That's a building you didn't grow up in. That's a man I remember from your old stories. You hired someone to follow me. Now her tone climbed the ladder of indignation. That's so invasive, I can't believe you did it. For a year, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I interrupted. This past week, I gave myself the benefit of the facts. I touched the photos. While I was making dinner, you were here. While I was waiting, you were there. While I was calling, you were too busy to press a button. She leaned her hands on the table. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, I answered. Just don't come at me with the vocabulary you prefer I use. She looked at the door as if an exit might appear if she stared hard enough. You're going to throw away a marriage? Over what? I asked. Over traveling. Over your weird control issues? I pointed at the suitcases. No. For the moment, respect left the room. For the morning you told me it was none of my business how you lived while you were spending the life I built for Paris, becoming a surprise announcement, as if I were your doorman. You're exaggerating, she tried. We can fix this. I was lost, stressed. I needed what you needed. It wasn't me, I said, and what I need now isn't you. I nodded toward the counter. The papers are ready. I've already signed. She looked at the forms and then back at me. The fight went out of her. You can't be serious. I'm not acting, I replied. The locks on the office have been changed. The shared card has been canceled. Your key still works, but only until tonight. Your ride's in the garage. She tried one last angle with a voice I hadn't heard since our first year. Jack, please don't do this. I was wrong. I'll cut everything off, delete numbers, whatever you want. I'll work on this. I'll come home. We'll do therapy. I'll be better. Just give me a chance. I shook my head. You had a year of chances I didn't even call chances. I call them Tuesdays. Her eyes glistened. She reached out her hand, then let it drop when she saw my face didn't move toward hers. She took the handle of a suitcase as if it weighed 100 kilograms. You're going to regret this? She murmured. More habit than prophecy. I opened the door. I'm sure I'll miss the part where I dined alone by candlelight. She walked past me, stopped on the porch, and turned for one last shot. You didn't need to involve my sister. I held her gaze. I didn't drag anyone into this. Not you, not her. I just stopped pulling the card. She just left. The door closed with a clean click. The silence finally sounded like stillness, not absence. I drove to Lily's house without music. She opened the door before I could knock, as if she'd been waiting nearby, with a book and a theory on how the chapter would end. So, she asked, it's over. I said. She stepped forward and hugged me like decent people do when they don't expect credit. I'm proud of you, she said on my shoulder. Not for ending it, but for ending it well. I still have one more thing to close out, I answered. Do you want to celebrate the last day I call that house ours? She pulled back, evaluating me. I do, she said softly. But I'm not a rebound, Jack. I'm a decision. That's why I came to your door after I closed mine. We went to a small place on the corner that served burgers and nothing pretentious. We ate, laughed about unimportant things, and didn't run from the subject like cowards. She asked me what I wanted from now on. I said respect first, then everything else. She said she liked that order. The paperwork went quickly because I prepared it that way. I didn't use it as a weapon, I just didn't delay. A month later, the signatures were on the paper and the mail brought confirmations, not surprises. I bought a used truck I'd had my eye on, and I put sweat equity into the house I kept. I tore down the half wall between the kitchen and the living room, installed open shelves, and started having people over on Sundays again like before. Mark showed up with a bag of chips and a joke about my new bachelor pantry. I said it was a grown man's pantry and he could come over whenever he wanted. Lily and I didn't rush into anything legally binding until the dust settled, but when we did, it was without a show. Her parents, technically my ex-in-laws, were with us in a lit-up backyard, with cheap string lights and a borrowed speaker. They'd seen the photos, heard the messages. They didn't argue with proof. We started simple. Breakfast on the porch, tacos every Thursday, Saturdays at the community center, where I build a drying rack for canvases and learn to like the way kids see the world when no one tells them what a tree should look like. We took a day trip to the coast. I drove the truck. She put on a quiet acoustic playlist, and we didn't fill the silences with noise. I learned to like silence again when it came from peace, not distance. As for Aaron, I didn't go looking for news. Still, I found it. Someone told Lily that the old boyfriend and the new life together hit a wall, because reality calls in debts faster than fantasy pays them. I didn't feel triumphant. It was just one more thing I didn't have to carry. One afternoon, a month after the papers, my phone lit up with a number I knew. I let it ring until it stopped. A minute later, the message came. Sorry, I screwed it all up. I hope you're happy. There was no malice in it, just a late admission. I wrote, erased, wrote again, and left it unanswered. Silence can be dignified. Sometimes it's a boundary, not a punishment. One Friday night, Lily and I had friends over. The grill in the backyard was sizzling. People leaned on the railing and argued about baseball while the sun cast that last faded glow on the fence I had varnished the weekend before. Mark handed me a beer and nodded toward the house. You seem lighter, he observed. I'm not carrying a sofa on one shoulder anymore. I replied. He laughed once. Right. Lily walked by with a tray of corn and touched my elbow. Everything's still okay with the dishes. Everything's okay with everything. I answered, and I meant it. Later that night, when the last guest had left and the dishwasher was humming in the background, she leaned against the counter and looked at me. Do you remember the line I told you that first night? She asked. That I'd hold on with both hands? It's still true, she said, with no need to convince. And not because you're perfect, but because you act like a grown man. You set rules, you follow them, you don't beg for respect, you create space for it. So do me a favor, I said. If I start to pull away, let me know. I have no interest in repeating patterns. She smiled. You're not the repeating type. We went out on the porch with 2 mugs and no agenda. The neighborhood got quiet. Somewhere a dog barked once and lost interest. A car drove slowly down our street and turned the corner. I looked at the house I had put back in order and felt that special kind of silence again. The kind that doesn't accuse you of anything, doesn't ask for proof, doesn't call back shortly if ever. If you want a secret, it's boring. I didn't win anything. I just stopped wasting time. I drew a line and I kept it. I stopped treating drama like a climate I couldn't control. I stopped holding the door for someone who insisted on walking out of it. And when the message from Paris came, I finally answered, not her, but myself. I wrote the sentence I should have written the first time she disappeared at dinner time. Nobody's waiting for you anymore. That sentence was the last thing I needed to hear from myself. Everything after that was action. Weeks later, Lily and I were at the community center during a student exhibition. A kid's painting had a tree made of blue forks. The title was Still Winter. The artist's mother cried like the ocean and then apologized for crying. I helped stack chairs at the end, turned off the lights, and locked the door. It was like closing up a shop you like, that good kind of tired. We went home, and as we turned onto our street, I noticed the porch light I'd installed the weekend before forming a perfect circle on the steps. It was a small thing, but small things add up when they're constant, when they're yours, when you're not begging someone to show up and turn them on. I parked, turned off the engine, and looked at Lily. You're always hungry. Burgers. Perfect. We went into our kitchen, which was no longer a lobby. It was a place where 2 people cooked, and the only surprise trips were to the fridge. I took out the ground beef. She cut tomatoes like a surgeon, and we worked without speeches, without candles to watch burn out. If anyone asks me what changed, I'll say this. I didn't chase. I protected what was mine, starting with me. I separated feelings from facts. I didn't make a mess when I could make a decision. I didn't wait for things to turn around. I turned around. When I put the last photo on the table that day, I wasn't angry, I was determined. That's the difference. And when I told Aaron, nobody's waiting for you now, except the papers, it wasn't out of spite. It was a timestamp. The day I stopped trying to be a husband to someone who had already left long before the suitcases. The day I left a room she emptied and opened a door someone else actually walked through. Today, when Lily links her arm in mine as we go straight to the movies, or when she falls asleep on the couch in the middle of the documentary and I put a blanket over both of us without turning off the screen, I feel the simplest thing I was missing. Respect. After that, everything else, always in that order. Reddit comment. Sometimes the problem isn't losing someone. It's finally stopping waiting for someone who's already gone. Respect isn't begged for, it's practiced.